To another breaking news story that we're also covering here on Al Jazeera, and that's that Israel's High Court has struck down a law passed by the Knesset that would have limited its judicial oversight of government. Now, Israel has no written constitution, but the court has long used a so-called reasonableness standard to decide whether government decisions are legal. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wanted an end to this standard after the court blocked some of his cabinet appointments because of their past criminal convictions. It sparked widespread protests throughout 2023, with critics saying that the move would increase corruption. Laura Khan joins us now from occupied East Jerusalem. And it's hard to believe that this is the end of the matter, Laura, for either the government or the public.
It's very unlikely to be the end of the matter. It was a very bold move by the Supreme Court. It's the first time it has struck down a basic law in its history. Now, this law was passed in July. I was outside the Knesset. There were tens of thousands of people there, all protesting against this law because it's part of a big judicial overhaul, which they say is stripping away the Supreme Court powers, therefore taking away the checks and balances needed. This reasonableness bill, the clause, has been used for around 4 decades, and it allows the Supreme Court to take petitions from the government when it comes to anything from appointing ministers or judgments that they believe is unreasonable. So there has been some reaction so far. The Kaplan Force, one of the big protest movements, they've already put out a statement saying, that they need to celebrate this. This is a big victory for the big movement against the judicial overhaul. The Justice Minister, who was one of the architects of this law, says, at a time where we need unity in the country, we're not getting that. We need to unite behind the fighters, and this law certainly shouldn't have happened, or the overturn of the law shouldn't have happened during the war in Gaza.
Laura Khan, thanks very much for joining us for the update there. Let's cross over to Gideon Levy, is a columnist with Haaretz newspaper. Joins us now live from Tel Aviv. Mr. Levy, good to have you with us on the programme again. Is the court now on a collision course with the Prime Minister?
Yes, absolutely. And the Supreme Court took us back today for a moment to the days before the 7th of October. Namely, let's forget about the war and let's remember what happened in Israel in the last year. In the last year, there was a very, very bitter struggle over the nature of Israel's democracy, namely that the government and the parliament try to take some anti-democratic measures. The Supreme Court of Israel said its voice today, raised its voice today in a very clear and loud way, and put an end to all the what's called the legal or juristic reform that Netanyahu's government tried to implement, and we are back with a more healthy system.
What do you think Prime Minister Netanyahu's options are now? Do you think he's going to, well, I think we both think he's not going to just sit down and take this, but how do you think he's going to move forward on this?
The matter of fact is that there is very little which can be done except of anarchy. I mean, if we continue to be a state of law, there is nothing he can do. Because even if the parliament will now legislate another basic law, now it's very clear that the Supreme Court has the sovereignty, has the right to cancel it. So it can become an endless game. The parliament will legislate and the Supreme Court will cancel it. So I don't see much that can be done because the Supreme Court was so clear with a very, very clear majority. 13 judges out of 15 say that the Supreme Court has the right to cancel basic laws of the parliament if they are not illegal. I think it's a very important day for Israel's democracy, but let's remember we are in a very special time in which the Israel's democracy is killing children and civilians in Gaza.
How much pressure is the Prime Minister under now? I mean, he's got the war on Gaza, which obviously we know about, but he's also got quite a divided right-wing cabinet as well.
Yeah, but he can still survive. I mean, let's not have any let's not be wrong, Netanyahu can continue to be the prime minister at least for the end of the war, and maybe longer, who knows. He has a very stable majority, and this majority, this coalition will not commit suicide and will not go against him, because once they go against him, that's the end of this government. And elections means now in Israel a total different government. So I don't see them taking suicidal steps. And I think that this government can last for long.
We'll see what happens, certainly, in the coming weeks. For the moment, Gideon Levy there from Haaretz newspaper in Tel Aviv. Thank you very much for your time, sir.